Welcome back to The Big Issue. For those of you joining us on television, a good morning to you as well. On The Big Issue, currently we are discussing the nomination by the Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame of Kissi Agyabeng, who is currently the chairman of the Electronic Communications Tribunal, to serve as the next special prosecutor. If accepted, he will replace Martin Amidu, who resigned in the latter part of 2020. And this nomination has not been without controversy. Kissi Agyabeng is a very public figure, has been in the news for several years for several reasons, known primarily as the legal representative of Anas Aremeyaw Anas, also known as one of the more brilliant criminal lawyers we have in the country, has a long list of very reputable clients and cases on his resume. So his nomination came as a surprise to quite a few people because he's been seen as a man who is very much vested in private practice. So to be nominated for the role of the nation's basically topmost anti-corruption czar was one that surprised quite a few people. And we still haven't heard from the man as to whether he will accept it or not. There's still quite a bit of a way to go, but it does look like he will take the job, and if approved, will act as the special prosecutor of the Republic. So our own Samiri Afe has been following the build-up to this, and we'll listen to his report. And when we come back, we'll try and break down the nomination and what it means for the fight against corruption in Ghana.
Kissi Agyabeng was called to the Ghana Bar in October 2003 and holds a Bachelor of Law degree from the University of Ghana, as well as Masters of Law degree from the Cornell Law School, USA. He has since 2006 been teaching criminal law at the University of Ghana, Legon, whilst engaging in private practice. He serves as a lawyer for investigative journalist Anas Aremeyaw Anas and his Tiger Eye PI investigative team. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has the mandate to investigate and prosecute all suspected corruption and corruption-related offences as pertaining to public officers, politically exposed persons, and persons in private sector alleged to have been involved in any corruption or corruption-related offences. Apart from initiating investigations on its own, Act 959 gives the Office of the Special Prosecutor the power to receive and investigate complaints of alleged corruption from the public or investigate suspected corruption or corruption-related offences upon referral from public bodies such as the Attorney General Department, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice (SHRAJ), and the Economic and Organised Crime Office (EOCO). Kissi Agyabeng is currently the chairman of the Electronic Communications Tribunal.
Respectfully, as you would recall, Mr. Martin Alamisi Benskaiser Amidu resigned his position as Special Prosecutor on November 16, 2020. Section 13, Clause 8 of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act requires the President to appoint a person qualified for appointment as Special Prosecutor to that position within 6 months of the Office of Special Prosecutor becoming vacant. In accordance with Section 13, Clause 3 of the Act, I hereby nominate Kissi Agyabeng Esquire. I am satisfied that Kissi Agyabeng possesses the requisite expertise on corruption and corruption-related matters, is of high moral character and proven integrity, and satisfy all the other requirements stipulated in Section 13, Clause 1 and 2 of Act 959.
So that's a profile of the man who is expected to become the next Special Prosecutor of the Republic of Ghana, Kissi Agyabeng. And you can send your comments on what you think of this particular nomination, 0549 986 996, 0549 986 996, and 0550 5832. You can also send it via Twitter at City973, hashtag The Big Issue, or on my own Twitter handle, Godfred Akotobuafo at East Sportsman. Send in on the same hashtag, and I will gladly read your comments, questions, queries, anything you have on the topic. And I'll be having this conversation. Franklin is still with us, President of Imani Africa, of course, very heavily interested in what happens at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Roxy Nelson Dafia-Mekpo, Member of Parliament for South Dai, will also join us. Dr. Pukwe Dusa, a legal practitioner, will join us, as will Mary Ada, Programs Manager at the Ghana Integrity Initiative. So again, let me start this conversation from Franklin, then I'll bring in Mary Ada, Dr. Pukwe Dusa, and then the Honorable Roxy Nelson Dafia-Mekpo. Franklin, this was a nomination that took you by surprise, surely?
Well, maybe surprising because the gentleman involved is not known to be, I mean, in terms of the political, if you like, fiber, political gravitas, he probably isn't there as like Martin Namidu is. Otherwise, the little I know of him is that he's going to be capable to do the job. Of course, there have been questions about how difficult it will be for him to deal with the political class, especially because he's also coming from, I mean, he has a lot of friends within the ruling government anyway, and I think those are...
Is that a problem?
...be crossed when we get there. But otherwise, I think...
no, Franklin, I'm asking you a question. Is that a problem?
Say that again.
Is that a problem, that he seems to have a lot of friends in the current government?
Well, it's not a crime to have friends in politics. The challenge, though, is that given what had just occurred with Martin Namidu, and I mean, it looks as if it's not just because of Martin, but the office itself. You have to have fewer friends, basically. And by this, I'm not saying he should disassociate himself with all the friends he has. But of course, an arm's length approach would definitely be better for him. And I'm sure he probably knows this better than I can recommend. The other thing I needed to say was that, even if Martin Namidu had been able to successfully start some prosecutions, the strictures of our court systems was going to make it a very complex job to even have a successful prosecution. And by the time you'd be recovering monies that have been lost, the amount of time you spend, I'm just saying that the job really wouldn't have given the satisfactory returns as we would have wanted, which is why we are saying that, look, when I say we at Imani were saying when this office was going to be established, while we were happy and gleefully welcomed it, we thought that the nature of our excesses in government actually emanates from the Office of Government Machinery, and the executive structure is such that the presidency has so many powers, amorphous some of them are, and has the power to undo and do anything that he wants to do. I mean, the presidency wants to do. So if you look at the sources of some of these perceived and grandiose corruption, they all emanate from the office of the presidency, which is why we think that, look, one of the best ways to deal with this matter is actually to prevent these opportunities before they actually occur. And these opportunities are procurement opportunities. Most of the big procurement issues, this Saglemi thing we are discussing, for instance, if you go into the details, you'll not be surprised that this was procurement laden, and most of the persons who encourage this have the powers and the pleasance all the way traced to the presidency. And so that's why it's so difficult to deal with it as well. But it's very important to deal with these matters rather than appear to erecting many structures and hoping things will change. But anyway, Kisi is a friend, and I think he'll do well. He's resolute, but he will be faced with the same, if you like, merry-go-round type of politics that we have in this part of our world.
Thank you. Let me go to the Anti-Corruption Office. Mary Ada, Programs Manager, Ghana Integrity Initiative. Ms. Ada, good morning. Hello, Ms. Ada. Please unmute your microphone.
Sorry about that. Good morning and good morning to the other panelists.
No
and also to your cherished viewers.
No problem with that. How is the Ghana Integrity Initiative taking the nomination of Kissi Agyabeng as the next special prosecutor? When Martin Amidu was nominated, basically there was broad-based consensus that, look, this is a man with an established reputation in fighting corruption in this country. There was a body of work to show. There are those who have raised questions and said, well, we don't know this one like that. But is that really a problem?
I'm not sure about whether there was general consensus. The fact that for Martin Amidu, he had been known in the space. He is one who has individually carried the fight against corruption. As Franklin put it, he was very politically connected, and he had done a lot of work in the public space to the point of he being a vice presidential candidate. And so for that matter, it's not too surprising that with Martin Amidu, for those credentials, everyone was very happy that he was picked. And again, it was also for the fact that he was coming from the opposition party, meaning that the fear of the Attorney General, who also is the Minister of Justice, not being able to prosecute his own, and then the need for setting up this office to ensure that that is curtailed would be actively undertaken. And so for Ghanaians, we believe it was the best choice at the time, not just because of who he was, but because of where he was coming from. In this instance, we believe, we from what we have heard from the gentleman, we believe he meets the criteria for the appointment. It is not that big. The Office of the Special Prosecutor Act clearly states that the person should be a lawyer, which Mr. Kissi is. He should be someone who has practiced the law for 12 years. Minimum he has. He has some very fantastic credentials when it comes to academics, where he is taught criminal law. And what better to bring to this office where he would be doing investigations and pursuing prosecution, and also ensuring that as we go forward into the justice delivery system, we get some traction for and recoveries for people who have been indicted or thereabout. And so for us, it is not just about who he is, it's about what the law says. He meets the criteria for appointment. But then the critical question that we perhaps would be asking ourselves is if we know Mr. Kissi Agyabeng for being someone who has been in the trenches of the anti-corruption crusade. For me, I would not say so. We know he has done some work in defending Anas, who has done anti-corruption work for a long time. That is true. But we also know he's done other investigations as well. He is a lawyer and he's representing. And so in that instance, he qualifies per who he is, but then we don't know him for the serious anti-corruption that was done or executed by Martin Amidu. And so for us, the appointment per qualifications is perfect. He can do the work. And again, let me add that one argument that has come up, which we believe is moot, is the fact that he is young. We believe that if people are not given the opportunity to exhibit their character, credibility, and ability, it would be difficult to say that they are young and they cannot do it. In any case, the Constitution does not say he is not qualified. He is young. We have known youthful people in this country who have done a good job when they were given the opportunities. And so for us, we believe that going forward, the fortitude and the courage with which he tackles this office is what we should be looking at, and not looking at age necessarily, because age is not a mark of expertise. We believe that people who are courageous and have done a lot, we can mention names in this country and other places in the world where very youthful people have done a good job in their mandates when they have had the opportunity. And let me say finally that if we don't give people the opportunity, how would we know if they can do the job?
Well, Mary, you do raise an interesting point about his know-how within the anti-corruption space of Ghana. And in corruption, as you would attest to, perception is everything. And there are those who have said, well, he's a bit of a lightweight in that regard. And so it's judgment from day one based on just his lack of a reputation in the anti-corruption space. And a lot of people seem concerned by that.
It is a realistic concern that we all have. That is true. But then again, let's look at it from this point. This gentleman has taught the law. He knows the law. And he has gone to court. He's gone to court to either defend people who have been cited for issues of corruption or otherwise, because we know some cases which he did where he was defending people. The Smarties deal is an example. And so for that matter, we would not get somebody who is 100% in all regards. If you take anti-corruption fights in Ghana, perhaps if you pick Martin Amidu and the other bigwigs that you know, you may not then be appointing somebody. And we need someone to do this job. And perhaps that would also inform, let's all also be aware that he is not as yet been confirmed. And so that perhaps would also inform, if he's confirmed, to take a drastic route to ensure that that is done. Because in this space, we want to see that people who have done it in a long time are doing well, but he is coming on board. He has some experience, and that is enough for us. We believe it is enough to go on to fight, even though realistically people have real concerns that he's not being in the space doing activism, he's not being in the space known as some lawyers might be. But that doesn't take away the fact that if he is given the job and given the opportunity to operate freely, he can do the job.
Okay.
With the support of government, media, and civil society. All
right, Ms. Ada, I'll come back to you. Thank you for that. Let me talk to Dr. Poku Adusei. Now, Poku Adusei is interesting because he knows Lawyer Kissi Agyapong very well. Dr. Adusei, morning. Dr. Poku Adusei, good morning. Okay. Dr. Poku Adusei. Well, it looks like we are having a bit of an issue with Dr. Poku Adusei. We'll get back to him, and then we'll also get to Roxy Nelson Dafiame. But Franklin, of course, Agyapa will stand out, and I've seen the questions already arising this week. And it adds to my question of perception. There are those who say, look, this person has had a role to play one way or the other somewhere in the Agyapa situation. And we also, people are saying we understand Agyapa will come back. We also understand the circumstances under which Martin Amidu left based on Agyapa and all its issues. How do we put this together and trust Kissi Agyapong going forward?
Agyapa definitely will be one of the strongest, if you like, tests for Mr. Agyapong. And I guess he probably has the brief by now. And definitely what he says and what he thinks matters a whole lot. So I wouldn't want to prejudge or preempt what he would do, even though I know he was somehow connected to the Agyapa deal. But because of the interest the Agyapa deal generated and the various, if you like, not necessarily conflicting views, but the house that came with the Agyapa deal, I think it would be in his interest to be seen to be offering very independent views about the whole deal. So that's a big test. But I guess the other test would also be, of his success, would be whether he would have the free hand to get the type of investigators that he would have. Because remember, Amidu complained significantly about how some of his investigators were even compromised.
Yeah.
Maybe the public sector may have to be taken out of the whole exercise of he getting his investigators. He must get his own investigators if he wants to succeed. Otherwise, that would be very difficult to also achieve. These are things I like to see him do. But on Ejapa, clearly he has to make his point as independent as possible.
And how important also do you think this is? It's not just a matter of for Kissi Agyabeng, it's also for the president, because the office of the special prosecutor was one of the big ticket items on his agenda in his first term. It's one of the things that he has sold as part of his international reputation. How important is this for the president that this nomination works, looking at how the first one went?
Well, without a doubt, and I suspect all of these would have been taken into consideration before this appointment was made, because the last thing you want is to be faced with your special prosecutor telling you that you are whatever, the serpent of corruption and all kinds of terminologies that I may not be able to repeat here. And not because of the way he describes the president, the former prosecutor, but the whole, everything that went with it as well. You don't want to go that route, but I'm not necessarily saying that Kissi Agyabeng should refrain from saying it as it is. I suspect his frankness and probably his modus operandi may be different, but he obviously, the president must have been guided by all of this before making the appointments anyway. So we wait to see what will happen. I think Dr. Odusa is back now.
Okay, Franklin, I'll get back to you. I have Dr. Pukwe Dusay now. Dr. Pukwe Dusay, good morning. Dr. Pukwe Dusay.
Good morning.
Thank you for making time for us on the big issue this morning. So let me just ask this quickly. You know Kissi Agyabeng in the professional manner, you know him in a personal sense as well. What are we getting here as, or who are we getting here as our special prosecutor?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers and listeners. My network dropped because I'm far away. So I hope you indulge me, considering that I am way away from Accra.
No problem.
Well, I've known Mr. Agyabeng for about 23 years now. In 1998, we all entered the law school. That's a law faculty then, at Legon, as students. So he was my classmate. Sorry, there's some disturbance here. He was my classmate from 1998 at Legon. We continued to the Ghana School of Law and then completed. After that, we went our various ways for graduate studies. And then later on, we came back to work with Dr. Dominic Ayine in his then NGO. And actually, at the Center for Public Interest Law, the kind of work we were doing was a civil society activism as young lawyers. We continued and then later on formed Ayine and Feli Law Office and worked there for a while before we departed. So anything I would say about him here is personal, is experiential, and I can vouch that we have a first-class person who has been appointed for this position. I followed the arguments thus far based on age, based on people's understanding of experience, and all that I would say is that those are just not well-grounded in terms of having personal experience of the person in question, because they have not either worked with him or they have never been followed his track record. He is someone who I believe is proven, and that's the reason why the president saw the need to nominate him. So in terms of age, if you look at the law on appointment of a special prosecutor, you don't find anywhere that you need to even be of a certain age. Of course, you expected that the person should be qualified as a member of parliament. And in the constitution, that's 21 years. So when you are 43 years, I wonder why people think that someone who is left with 17 years to go on retirement in the normal scheme of the public service is young. I mean, we have taken age issues to absurd levels, and I think that when we give the young persons the opportunity to serve, they will be able to serve, and I believe Kissi is qualified to serve. Even for the presidents in the constitution, you are only required to be at least 40 years. The man is 43 years. He'll be 43 next week. So what are they talking about that he is young? The man who is qualified to even be president of Ghana is young. So let's put those things aside and give him the opportunity to serve and prove himself whether he can be a good public prosecutor or not. With his high-level experience in criminal law, I can state for sure that Mr. Jabin will be able to do the work. Of course, when he was in private practice, he was doing it as a defense lawyer. But if you meet prosecutors and even the plaintiff lawyers all over, you will be able to learn what it is to be a prosecutor, because you must know their psyche, you must know what they have to put across to meet the high level of what you call beyond reasonable doubt before the person can begin to be convicted. But here is the case, he's on the other side. So he will know that this is the task ahead of him. These are the kind of evidence you need to produce before you can get a conviction. And I think that is fit for the job. Mind you, more often than not, when you are appointed to this position, people are only thinking about those you can jail. But there's more you can do to serve in this office than just jailing people. I.e., here is the case that state resources are going down the drain. People are pocketing them. So if you're able to have concrete evidence against someone, it's not only about jailing the person, it's about lost.
I think Mr. Lawyer said Pukwedu is still on.
Yes, I think it dropped a bit.
No worries.
So the other strategies he will have to implement, and I know he will do that, by actually giving opportunities to thieves in the public service or foreign persons to refund money and pay compensation to the state. In fact, it is in our court act that it's not always the case that persons who have embezzled money will be jailed. So if you have good persuasive skills with concrete evidence against persons, you ask that they refund the money and pay compensation to the state. That way we'll be having a lot of money in the public purse to do development that we've been craving for. So we should give the young man the opportunity to serve, and I believe that he's ready to serve the office. That's why he himself also accepted the nomination.
But there are those who have raised the question of the public knowledge of his fight against corruption. And it's not something that you can sweep under the carpet. This is a job that the expectation is the person who comes into this job has a certain level of moral authority or a certain level of integrity that the public believes in. And that is the only way you can be successful, if the public believes that the person who is conducting or who is operating this office is above reproach when it comes to these issues. How does he put himself out there to defend these kind of questions?
Let me just come in and set the record straight. More often than not, they tend to compare, as you say, apples and oranges. But that comparison here is guided in that the backdrop of the comparison is using Mr. Martin Amidu, right? Because of the exposures that he had in public life. But it also had this downside, because at the end of the day, what did he achieve in the few years or 1.5 years that he was in office as a public prosecutor? I am of the view that he actually pursued a vendetta against 1 or 2 persons, and he couldn't even succeed. One of such instances was that of Mr. Ayarga. His matter, when he came and the way he was pursuing it, that a public funds was used to buy an ambulance, which he wasn't using personally in his house to carry him to the hospital, but he had branded it in his constituency and he was using it. For that reason, he wanted his neck and head by all means, right? That he couldn't pay duty of about 30,000 or 36,000, and that was the extent to which he was pursuing the office. If he really believed in that case, it was a matter of pursuing an angle for him to go and pay the duty. I think that having a public spectacle of putting Mahama Ayariga there, where there were higher and bigger fishes all over, it didn't serve his end in any way. So if they are using Mr. Amidu's long track record in public life, and it comes with longevity in that office to be a basis to judge Mr. Jaben, then they are wrong. They are wrong in the sense that the one deemed to be a Methuselah, he couldn't perform as Solomon performed. And I think that's how you should also understand it, that when you give the young person the opportunity to put together a team and work with, and that person has the conviction, I am of the firm belief that Mr. Jaben has the conviction to succeed. So with that kind of energy and vigor, there's no way you will not be able to discharge the task. So let's forget about what we know in the past, because what we know in the past didn't work. It didn't work. Other than that, he wouldn't have abdicated the office when he was appointed.
Let me go back to Ms. Ada from the Ghana Integrity Initiative. So from your side, and you also are a chapter of the Transparency International, what will you be looking out for? Obviously, the first task he has is to set up the office, because we know that under Mr. Amidu, the office was never really properly set up based on certain constraints that he enumerated several times. What should we expect? What will be considered a successful tenure in your estimation for Kissi Agyabeng? What are the basics you are looking for?
Okay, so for us, let me begin from where Franklin left off, that most of the instances where Martin Amidu complained about was the lack of credible investigators. And I remember clearly that a big budget was made available for recruitment for the office. And so and most processes started. I am not too sure if that was finalized. If it was not, then this is a clear opportunity for the person who is being appointed, if he is confirmed by Parliament, to then quickly recruit his own staff, those he believes have the highest level of integrity per the criteria that has been set up by the law, and then quickly constitute the office and then pick up speed. This office is one that was clearly thought about, and so looking at the composition of the board, you would realize that interagency collaboration, which has been the bane in the fight against corruption for a long time because of the various duplication of roles and then the turf wars that have happened, was thought about in the construction of this act and the office. And for that matter, you realize that on the board, which is supposed to advise strategically, we have all the anti-corruption and investigative agencies on board. So it is very important that Mr. Kissi Agyabeng quickly works with his board to ensure he has the staff on board and works with the various agencies to ensure that he's collaborating enough to identify the issues, just like the previous Dr. Idrisi said, to ensure that we are not just investigating and prosecuting, which usually would take a long time to gain the results we want to see, but also recovering the proceeds of corruption, which can be done very effectively if we put the law to work. It is important that as a country, we need to ensure that what we set out to do in 2017, we are doing it now. 4 years have gone down, let me not say the drain lightly, but 4 years have gone down the drain in this process, this beautiful process we thought would facilitate the fight against corruption. So he should hit the ground running if he is approved. He should remember that collaboration will serve him well. He should remember that he should pick up and then also consult And then in collaboration, he would have the strength to be able to stand his ground and be as independent as the office posits. And then also in collaboration, he will be able to do a lot more than he would do as an individual. Remembering that he is supposed to be working with people, and for that matter, it is very important. And then it would be important to ensure that he catalyzes all the various efforts that have been put in place already. There were some ongoing cases, and I believe these were handed over to the Deputy Special Prosecutor. If they have not been finalized, what are some of the things we are supposed to be doing to ensure that these issues are quickly and expeditiously taken care of, so that the country goes forward in the fight against corruption? People are watching us, and we need to do a lot more. And the honors would lie with him to ensure that that lot more we are all seeking is done. Proactiveness on his part would serve him well. And if he doesn't do that, and he takes another channel, perhaps the Solomon approach, which was just espoused, would not be seen. We believe that youthfulness is gain, and youthfulness would help us in this fight because the energy is there. And we would want to see the energy people are attributing him with being put to the test in the fight against corruption. Again, I would want to say one thing, that on the issues that you asked Franklin about the JAPA and others, these should be put clearly to bed either by him or Parliament when he has the opportunity to be presented before them. And so that maybe he tells us and clearly outlines how he is going to put into place, roll out his mandate of investigating and prosecuting corruption and suspected cases of corruption, and how he is going to recover the proceeds of corruption, and then how he's going to take steps as well to prevent corruption. And in the prevention of corruption, that is where the issues of corruption risk assessments would be important. We would want to see these issues brought to a conclusion exhaustively, so, and so that when we are working from a fresh page. Everybody knows what is happening. We know the level of integrity is bringing to the office, and we know the energy thereof. And with all I have stated, most definitely we would be making some inroads like other nations have done.
Now, let me just ask you this. There are those who've also asked questions about the relationship that exists between the special prosecutor and the Attorney General. For that matter, he is nominated by the Attorney General for the role that he has. And there are those who have asked about how these two can operate in the same space, in the sense that one is basically the lawyer of the state, and a lot of the circumstances, as we saw from Martin Amidu, were instances where he had to deal with elements of the state, and he did complain about the lack of support that he was receiving from the state in pursuing this role. How should he navigate this relationship?
I believe that at a point, Martin Amidu himself cited that he was getting a lot of support from, and he mentioned some individuals, including the finance minister. And that is how come a whole budget he requested for was assigned him, allocated to his office. But this was not exhausted, perhaps because he did not have the full structures in place. Then we are saying that going forward for the new special prosecutor, friendship is good, but then in the fight against corruption, I don't believe that he is going to be working based on friendships. He has an act, and he has the framework based on which he is going to fight corruption, and that is his closest friend. The regulations were also so spelled out to ensure that he works from a very informed perspective, bearing in mind the constraints of the Constitution and that relationship that exists between his office and the office of the Attorney General. And so, even though they might be friends, they perhaps were also classmates like Dr. Dusi is citing, stated here. But we believe that in our work and in our professional conduct, friendships do not count. If the Attorney General is supposed to be cited for something, I believe his credibility and that integrity, which is part of the qualifications for the office of the Special Prosecutor, would come into play and not friendships. Again, for support from the executive, and let me specifically say the presidency here, we believe that one of the key things the president said before he was voted into power was the fact that his interest in the fight against corruption was real, and one of the things he was going to do was to set up an office to ensure that he fights corruption. We don't believe that that has changed. And so if he wants to leave a clear landmark in the sense of time that he was one who fought corruption in Ghana and did it very well by passing the RTI law and also by setting up this office, then the onus lies on the president as well and the executive to ensure that they support this office and whatever the special prosecutor working within the confines of his law is bringing to the fore. I believe that support should be very firm and unquestioning, because the president's commitment to the fight in the manifesto and in his various speeches have affirmed that he is firmly grounded and rooted for the fight against corruption. That would only be exhibited when the special prosecutor is allowed his independence to operate, and when he also takes on the bull by the horns and goes without any fear or favor dispensing his mandate.
All right, then thank you very much, Ms. Mary Ada. She's the Programs Manager, Ghana Integrity Initiative. Let me take a couple of messages and then we'll wrap up this conversation and talk about Galamsey. So, let's see. Walanyo in Akwetia says, Godfred, let me take a bit of your leisure time. Mr. Martin Amidu was appointed by the president. He was appointed by the president, His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. An NDC guru went to court, and the issue was he has reached his retirement age, that is overaged, and must not be allowed to be the special prosecutor. Mr. Kissia Jabing has been recommended by the AG to be appointed by the president as the next XP, and people are saying he is also not old enough to air. It says people in Ghana are beautiful. Kissia Jabing can do the job. I've known him to be an impartial person. He can get the job done if he doesn't change to be political in his judgments. Let's all support him. This is Oxy from Akosombo. Babamu from Tamale says, good morning, Godfred. It's needless for people to think Mr. Ejabing is too young to occupy this role. In fact, I believe he's more than qualified. He deserves the role. Congratulations to him. C says, I'm quite surprised at this age issue and how it's been discussed. I heard Honorable Yunusa Hussaini talk about the age of the special prosecutor in relation to the age of the president, and what was found out from other jurisdictions as they went around the world looking for best practices in creating the office of the special prosecutor. So those are his thoughts. Kumi, he's watching from Community 2 in Tema, says, Mr. Kuto, the fight against corruption should start first from the presidency and must remain the main focus. His appointees will be victims, so the problem which happened with Mr. Amidu's time will happen again. So these are some of the... Okay, so Prince Henry from Kofodia says, how can we trust Mr. Kissia Jabing, who was vociferously defending the Japa deal, which led to the resignation of Mr. Amidu, the first special prosecutor of Ghana? The man is not fit for the job. That's according to him. And he also says that, can we finish these housing projects as Aglami and give it out to Ghanaians while we fight the corruption part as well? Are we not denying Ghanaians their own taxes? Should we wait until the corruption aspect is dealt with before we give out these houses? That is his concern this morning. And Dr. Dusa, I'll give you final word on the nomination of Mr. Kissia Jabing with relation to the independence from the AG, and then we'll wrap this up.
Well, thank you. What I've seen in our architecture is that almost every person is appointed by somebody. Even the Chief Justice is appointed by the President, of course, after going through some processes. Justices of the Supreme Court. So, one thing we should bear in mind is that it's not about just the appointment, because as soon as you are appointed, you are therefore clothed with certain powers for you to perform. So that is where the focus should be. It's not for the source of the appointment per se. Let's not overdwell on who is appointing who, but rather whether the person is independent enough, is protected by law to be able to perform his functions. That's the most crucial aspect. And with the kind of legal framework we have, I believe that you should be able to perform within it and not think of who appointed him, because the president is committed to fighting corruption. Others have also indicated that he's involved, or he was involved in the Ajapa issue. I don't know where they are getting those evidence from. And at best, all that they are providing is anecdotal. It is not any concrete evidence of Mr. Jabin's involvement. If you're a legal practitioner, you sometimes write opinions for people and advise them. Meanwhile, you might not have even gotten anything at all. I know they are trying to draw the nexus, because when we were in law school, we met Gabi. He became our colleague as a classmate, and then we completed the Ghana School of Law. But even when Amidi was speaking, the way he was writing, he indicated as if Mr. Jabin was with us from Gabi Wachidakun was with us from University of Ghana days as classmates, which is a palpable falsehood. We were in law school for 2 years together. But that doesn't matter. Everyone knows somebody. If you rise up to become prominent in society, you will definitely know people. But the most important thing is that to stand on your principle and do the work that you have been given. And I believe Mr. Jabin will be able to do that decent work. The anecdotal evidence of trying to draw him in the Ajapa matter is of no essence. And I believe that is not well supported whatsoever. It's just people who are thinking that Gabi was involved, and for that reason, being his friend and his lawyer as well, he's also involved. It's neither here nor there.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Dr. Puku Edusei. Thank you, Mary Ada, Programs Manager, Ghana Integrity Initiative, and Franklin Kujo, who is President of Imani Africa. He will stay with us. We could not be joined by the Honorable Roxy Nelson Dafiame, but he was having connectivity issues and sends his apology. So let's talk about Galamsey. Yes, it's not going away. We've been discussing this issue for the past month, and we will not stop discussing Galamsey until this issue is dealt with properly. And this week we've had quite a bit happening. There was an issue. There was a national dialogue that was held, and out of the national dialogue, we've had some outcomes, and we are seeing some things being done. And so we're going to have a conversation about the things that have been done. Some are saying, look, we've seen these things before. What is new? Show us something new. We'll try and figure this out when we return.
Can I show you what an excellent courier and delivery service really looks like? What is it you want delivered? Is it a document? Is it a parcel? You name it, Ago Express is here for you. They are smart, they are prompt, they are professional, and above all, they are trustworthy. They come at the best rates you can ever imagine. Contact them for all your delivery needs, and you'll thank me later. Ago Express, any day for me. Now that's Ago for you. Spread the word and make sure you patronize their service too.
Hey, Papa, no. Hey, why is your friend at all?
I was at the bar with my friend Ato. We are betting the game and tensions were high. And Ato said, Charlie, we go lose. So then I said, the same day. And then, I won 15,000. Then I just said, wait, we bet the same amount. How come I only got 9,000? Now I asked, yo, you didn't bet to Bet Planet?
Wait. He didn't bet to Bet Planet?
I didn't bet to Bet Planet. Then the bartender said, Ato, you suck, oh. Sharp, I go take all my money. Then I just said, all your money? That was quick, oh. He's betting people say, come for yours tomorrow. We went the next day and they said, come for the rest tomorrow.
For the best odds, biggest wins, and fastest payouts, choose Bet Planet.
So Ato, where you there?
I still take you inside.
This advert has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below the age of 18.
Welcome back to the big issue. It's at the final leg, and it's all about Galamsey from here on. And you can keep sending your messages 0549986996, 0549986996, and 0550585832. Like I said, I'm doing a very virtual big issue. All my guests are out of the studio and joining us via Zoom. But this Galamsey conversation is an important one, and I'm hoping that you at home, wherever it is you're watching us from, are also taking up the fight. Everybody should be interested in this. Now everybody's complaining, oh, we don't have water, we don't have this. It is part of the reasons why you do not have water. The Ghana Water Company have been complaining for almost 2 years that the cost of producing water is going up because stability levels are high. It is costing them much more to purify water. They might have to ration water. In fact, they have rationed water. They've had cost to ration water in certain parts of the country. The main water sources are being polluted by virtue of these illegal mining practices that are happening. And it looks like we are back to the same situation we were at 4 years ago. The president said, I'm putting my presidency on the line. Well, this week, 200 soldiers were deployed to the water bodies of the country to rid the water bodies of mining equipment, all kinds of illegal mining concessions that were happening there. But this has also been met with varied opinions. There are those who agree with the strategy, there are those who disagree with the strategy, and primarily because we've seen this before. In fact, prior to this, we had Galam Stop, we had all kinds of operations that involved use of force, both military and police. So we'll listen to what people have been saying about this ongoing operation, and then when we come back, we'll begin the conversation on Galamsey. Franklin Cudjoe is with us. Godwin Ama, General Secretary, Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners, will join us, as will Hannah Cranting, who is the Associate Executive Director of WACAM, and Daryl Bosu, Deputy Director, Arocha Ghana, will also join.
As part of measures to combat Galamsey, government deployed 200 military personnel tasked with flashing out illegal miners on the River Pram. After the 3-day mission dubbed Operation Halt, the team destroyed 9 excavators, 127 Champagne machines, and 1 fuel pump. The operation also led to the arrest of some Chinese nationals. Outlining the scope of work of the team, the Minister of Defense, Dominic Nitiwul, warned that the armed men drawn from the Ghana Armed Forces will take action against persons who return to the cleared sites.
The Ghana Air Force provided air cover and took aerial photographs of the operations. And by 18 hours, which is 6 p.m., when operations were halted for the day, 2 Chinese nationals were arrested at Atieku near Chufuprasu in the Central region. The Chinese, Wei Gang Ying and Wei Gang Ming, have all been handed over to the National Security for further interrogation. They will be prosecuted.
Dominic Nitiwul also spelled out the future of the operation, noting that the deployed personnel will patrol Galamsey endemic regions where river bodies and forest reserves have been polluted through illegal mining.
This operation will be conducted on all major river and forest reserves in all Galamsey endemic regions. Let me repeat. It will be conducted in all river bodies, the major river bodies and forest reserves in all Galamsey endemic regions throughout the country to rid them of illegal mining activities. And take note of what I'm just going to say. There will be aerial patrols where GAF has already swept past. Armed men will be authorized to take action, immediate action, on anyone who returns to these river bodies as the patrol goes by air.
The military high command took the opportunity to refute claims that its men have arrested about 200 illegal miners along River Pra in the central region as part of Operation Halt. The command has also debunked reports that the team seized 200 excavators. The acting chief of Defense Intelligence, Brigadier General Abraham Insia Yeboah, clarified what transpired during the 3-day exercise.
Before the operation started, there have been consultations and meetings, stakeholder consultations, and they have been warned of this operation being launched on that specific date. So before the operation was launched, a lot of people have advised themselves. And again, the operation was launched on a Wednesday. And for our information, the people who live on the Pra River have a custom that says that Wednesday they don't go to the river. So at the time of the operation, there was no local there. There were no indigenous. There were only 2 Chinese who were arrested. So that information about arrested 200 Ghanaians is never true.
The latest addition to the fight against illegal mining was the setting up of a monitoring and evaluation desk to see to the implementation of the latest ban on mining activities in forest reserves and river bodies. The Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abdullahi Jinapor, spoke on the latest development.
You see, having suspended activities, if you have equipment in forest reserves for which you were deploying for the purposes of prospecting, exploration, or reconnaissance, evacuate them. So the deadline is today. At the level of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, we have put together a monitoring and evaluation team headed by the Honorable Benito, MP from Wabieja, who is the Deputy Minister in my ministry. And that monitoring team is going to come out with a statement this afternoon. We're establishing a situation room. We are putting out telephone lines. Ghanaians can call to report that I live in Apamprama. There's a forest reserve. People are still engaged in prospecting there, or people are mining a forest reserve. The monitoring team will then alert the national security architecture apparatus so they can move in.
So that was the new Lands and Natural Resources Minister wrapping up that particular report. And I must commend him. He looks like he's energized and he wants to work. And I hope he gets all the support that he needs to be able to see this through, because we do want this to end. We do know that there have been problems, but we discuss the problems so that we can find solutions to them. So I'm having this conversation with Godwin Ama, General Secretary, Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners, Hannah Kranzi, Associate Executive Director of WACAM, and Daryl Bosu, Deputy Director at Arocha Ghana. Let me start from Hannah on this conversation. Hannah, good morning. Hello, Hannah. Okay, so Daryl, can you hear me? Hello, Daryl. Daryl, please unmute your microphone.
Hello?
Yeah, Daryl.
I can hear you very well. Hello, good morning.
Okay, good morning. I seem to have, yes, I can hear everybody. Thank you very much. All right, so then let me go back to Hannah Kranting, and then I'll come to Daryl Bosu, Deputy Director of Arocha Ghana. So, Hannah, there are those who are saying deja vu. We've seen this before. The use of force has never worked. Why do we use force again?
Thank you very much. I must say that it's quite a dicey issue, whether we have to use force or not use force. I'm saying this because militarization of communities is not the best way out. But as I say that, I also recognize the fact that if you go to many of the mining areas today, we have people who are armed to the teeth, protecting some illegal activities, and people who have applied licenses and they have veered into areas which makes their activity illegal. I have happened to be involved in some of these activities some time ago when we're tracking some illegal miners in the beyond Prestia, quite far away from Prestia. And the manner in which the people were operating and the fears that they have put into the communities that were there. When we returned, we couldn't even ask press to go there because we were afraid somebody could be hurt. If you look at other areas of Africa, Congo DR, for instance, the indigenous were not involved in any war, but the mining companies, legal and illegal, imported war into the environment. As they were fighting, there was a loophole for the miners to engage in their activities almost for free. So militarization of community is already in existence, where some of these people involved in such atrocities are armed and they are protecting what they are doing. So it becomes quite difficult for me to state that no, because I do not subscribe to the military being in communities, I would not want some of these activities to be kept. In fact, if we do not also take some actions to curb the atrocities happening in the communities, then we are gradually moving into a situation which could degenerate into some war of some sort. And I'm saying this also thinking about other land grabbing activities in the country, where land guards in the country have assumed some authority to the extent that even when you have gone through all your processes and you have acquired a parcel of land for any developmental venture, you are sure that if you do not want to pay some monies left, right, center, then you may forfeit that development. So it's quite a dicey situation. And I do not have information, the whole information as to why government has taken this decision to move and then help some of these actions happening in the forest areas. But I cannot take my head out and say no to the use of stamp force that is controlled to the extent that will not have infractions where community people will be hurt. At the same time, I'm also conscious that the people who are there are armed, and you cannot ask the community, the frontline communities, to support the police to push them off. And so that's the complex situation that we find ourselves in at the moment when it comes to the militarization in communities.
Let me ask you this, and I'll ask Darrell the same question as well. There are those who have raised concerns about, we hear forest reserves, mining in forest reserves. Now, we do understand that forest reserve is an ecological designation, is it not? It means it's supposed to be left alone by itself. But we have a situation where some way, somehow, we are able to mention the word forest reserve and mining in the same sentence, and have processes where you can mine in the forest reserve. How is this possible?
We started screaming some 20 years ago that would end up in this situation if we allowed mining of any sort in protected forests. You see, there are clear guidelines in our country which are embedded in our laws. And even when you come to the Minerals and Mining Act, 703/2006, if you look at Section 3, it talks about where a parcel of land is restricted by legislation, then you cannot grant it for mining. So every mine is available except when it has some restrictions in the form of law covering it. So what it means is that all protected forest estates, including wetlands and all, are areas that mining should not happen. And at the same time, it talks about not allowing plantation. tree plantation. So if you go to Section 4 of the Act, it talks about even when the minister thinks that the lands that are demarcated as protected areas are limited, as we have destroyed, the minister has the authority to create more reserves by compulsory acquisition of certain lands to augment the reserve that we have. Around the same time that we're talking, some 20 years ago, we recognized, and the Forestry Commission was explicit in documenting in a report that came out in 2002, that the companies have not shown any seriousness when it came to reclaiming the production forests. And so there was no need to grant them the right to mine protected forests. And that was the time the mining lobby, the chamber, and all the people who matter were lobbying seriously, as they are doing today, that yes, we find gold and minerals located in protected areas. Do we leave that to rot? In fact, if you start thinking like that as a state, then what you are saying is that you don't even have the scruples to say that I am governing the state. So the moment we allowed companies to dictate to states that we want to mine in protected forests, and I'm saying that this thing began in the 1990s, and then it runs through to the 20s, and then now we are confronted with this problem. So the first step that allowed any form of mining, any form of exploration into protected areas could not be said to be the right decision. And now we are confronted with the situation where Ghana is destroying its pristine environment as one of the fastest rates in the world. And so this attitude of us thinking that because mining can be done in protected forests because we have gold and we have diamonds should not be entertained at all. And in that respect, as I keep on saying, I would support the minister to do all that it takes, provided it will not harm some innocent people, to protect our forest reserves. So I support the minister in that. But then we should go back into history and look at where we had the infractions. For instance, if you talk about not allowing mining in forest reserves, the miners and then some regulators talk about, we can reclaim more forests by mining in forest reserves, and they are thinking about plantation. But the law is explicit, as I said, that you do not allow plantation development in protected forests. And so this idea that we can use the business biodiversity offset programs to extend the forest cover is neither here nor there, because once you go into plantation development, you cannot equate that to the pristine environment where ecosystems they have their own habitats and they thrive in their known habitats. You destroy the habitat, you destroy the soil structure, you destroy the texture, you destroy water sources that are located in these protected forests, and you cannot reclaim some of these facilities. So the forest, mining in forest reserves, we were wrong. We should acknowledge that we were wrong. Those who are already mining in forest reserves should be stopped, and then we think of how collectively as Ghanaians we can reclaim the forests that are destroyed. We cannot do it 100% because it's not possible, but at least we can bring back the integrity of the forest and ensure that not even future generations, because the way things are, our own generation can suffer from the loss of protected forests, and then we preserve some for the future generation.
Thank you, Ms. Cranton. Hold on for me. Let me talk to Daryl Bosu, who is the Deputy Director at Rocha Ghana. Daryl, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you. What do you make of the minister's strategy? There are elements of force. We've seen that. But we've also seen perhaps a decentralization effort as well. We heard of meetings with local regional ministers who are also supposed to go back and collaborate with MCs and DCs to help see this particular operation through. Are you filled with a new sense of vigor for the fight against Galamsey based on what you have seen this week?
Thank you. Yes, I think there is a lot of optimism in the atmosphere. We see the new minister really taking the bull by the horn and really making sure that things that didn't go well, we start to restructure and make the right decisions and take really strong action to address the weaknesses of the past. I would still maintain a level of caution in the optimism that we see, because we believe that, like most people have said, we've been here before. We need to cautiously work with the government as they have shown commitment to the process now and recommitted themselves. Let's work with them. Let's really turn things around. Because as you can remember, in the last 4 years, when the government first started with Galamsey and then subsequently brought in the Vanguard, we had the same issues with military being deployed and all of that. So in terms of this new deployment that we are seeing, to a certain extent, I believe that for every action, you also want to make sure that you have a short-term measure, a medium-term measure, and then also a long-term measure. So in the early stages as we find ourselves, it is good to see the minister taking these hard decisions, keeping or sending out directives to prohibit any prospecting forest reserves, and then again sending military out to make sure that our rivers are clear. For me, we also think that this should be a short-term measure, and as Madam Hannah said, we need to make sure that this does not become the status quo where we take charge of still state executive processes still very much at stake here and taking charge of the situation, whilst the decentralized institutions like the police command and the MMDAs and the district EPA and also the regional minerals commission department are deprived of the ability to work as they should. So I think this is it's still very early, but we are very optimistic and we want to support the minister, because this recommitment is really encouraging, and this is what you want to see. We want to sustain this, but we also need to make sure that we have a medium to long-term measure and not stick with keeping these deployments in place as a permanent situation, as a permanent solution.
But I hate to ask this question, Darrell, but with what we are doing now to try and mitigate the effects, the big question is, what did we spend the last 4 years doing?
It's a question I don't want to answer, and we have also reflected on it. It clearly tells you that the government has admitted that in the last 4 years, every strategy we put in place failed. And that is how come we need to recommit the process. And there are times where situations we don't need to, because we couldn't achieve any result. I think we need to recommit as the government has done. We failed in the past, but that shouldn't be a reason why we shouldn't do the right thing now. So I believe that a lot happened in the past. For example, when the Vanguard team were on the field, one of the key challenges they talked about was the fact that while they were arresting individuals and culpable persons on the field, the courts were not also ensuring that prosecutions were going on and people were fined as they were supposed to. So there was really a gap. And going forward, we don't need to see these issues become a stumbling block to the work of the military team that has been deployed and also the work of the various MMDAs. If they arrest people and they get to the courts, we need to see the courts applying the rule of law and ensuring that people who are found culpable face the full rigors of the law. That should be what we should do differently. Otherwise, we'll be wasting another 4 years as we go forward.
Let me then go to Godwin now. Godwin Amma is the General Secretary, Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners. And Godwin and I had a conversation 2 weeks ago. Godwin, it's good to have you back.
Thank you, and good morning.
Morning. And it looks like we are now in the enforcement phase. Last 2 weeks when we spoke, it was at the end of the national dialogue. This week, soldiers are out there. The minister has issued some instructions, including the very interesting one about not issuing new licenses for prospecting as well in forest reserves and elsewhere. What is your take on the strategy that has been put out this week?
Okay, thank you. If you watch clearly after the conversation, what we are looking at the implementation of some of the issues that were raised and the strategies that need to be put out there for us to ensure that we'll be able to maintain this issue of illegal mining. So we look at the short term, the medium term, and then the long term measures, and a lot have been said. But sending the military out there, as you asked earlier on, in the long term, it has not worked. Clearly, it has shown that military over so many years that we've used have not worked. And the reason being that when they stay there beyond the short term, then at the end of the day, there's this issue of familiarization and all that. And what happened in the last 4 years was in the issue of bribery, allegation of bribery, and then also veering off the main mandate that was given to them to ensure that the rivers are cleared. Small-scale miners are not issued, are not allowed to work in forest reserves. If you watch the Minerals and Mining Act, small-scale miners only work in designated areas which we have mining blocks for small-scale miners. So issues of not issuing, prospecting, or recognition license, or any better act of exploration in the forest reserve has nothing to do with the small-scale miners. Then when you look at the approach, the minister says first, the river bodies. And this has been what we've written over and over per our position paper, that our forest reserve, which most of the river picks their sources, need to be protected, and mining should not be allowed in there. Secondly, the river bodies should also be cleared. And then thirdly, those who are doing illegal mining on block-out areas or areas that belongs to people or there's encumbrancy, if we check and some of the areas can be regularized for us to monitor their activities as a state, we should look at that. But military, as I said, will not be the solution. It will be for the short term. So I'm looking at the medium term and then the long term of decentralizing the whole process. Because it's a national challenge, but it can be managed at the local level. Let me give you this information that during the operations just last Wednesday, some of our concession owners who are small-scale miners have been affected. And that is why we as an association fear that the military, if they are not carefully looked at or so for us. About 3 or 4 excavators of our members have been bent. And we've sent our technical team there to check, because they went there alone as the military. And according to information from the person or the miner, they informed the military that, look, we have our license, we are not washing into the water, we've kept our distances, but they said, we are not interested, we are not mandated, or we are not a regulatory body. So what we will do is to ensure that the law takes it. And they went there and just bent their excavators. So if you have the military and they are not monitored or they are not supervised properly, they will veer off their course. And the issue of human rights abuses will come in. And then the next thing is destroying properties without going through, because you don't have Minerals Commission and the EPA to work with them. They just go in and do vandalize and create so much problem.
Hold on, Mr.
Abba. And then the issue of human rights abuses and other things will go in. So we should look at it and ensure that it works. But decentralization, as we said, is the most important thing. Because you are looking at the regional level where the regional ministers are representing government, and they ensure that in their regions, illegal mining should be managed because they are the head of RegSec. But they cannot do it alone. The issue of illegal mining is a shared responsibility. It can be done at the grassroots level. So that these state chief executives are also part of the process. And then the district mining committees, by law, should be established, and they should ensure that they work. Also, the association is looking at the community-based approach, where the community level, Minerals Commission, EPA, Water Resource Commission, should inform the communities And the communities, the committee that we want to see is we have the chiefs in the assemblyman, the association of small-scale miners should also be part of that committee at the community level, so that we know the number of concessions that have been issued. So that when you come in and you say you've been given a license to operate and you bring it, they already have it in their system, and the Minerals Commission can update them, so that we manage it at the community level. Most of the people say small-scale miners are armed to the teeth. It's not always the case. It's not always the case. So we can manage them. We can manage it at the district level and then the community level. And that is the way forward. That is the medium and long-term strategies that we need to put up. But using military over the years have not worked, and I don't think it will work. It's only for the short term, and we should look at. The small-scale miners also, with our task force, are going to support, because we've done it in the past. We've done it in the last 4 years. And we were focusing on the river bodies. And these Chamfa operators, more than 8,000 have been taken off the river bodies. We also suggested to government that the manufacturing and then transportation and the use of these dredgers should be banned, so that the district level, we should enforce it. Because if somebody is producing a dredger onto the river bodies, those people should be arrested and prosecuted. And when you are transporting it also, it should be done, the number of Chamfas on our river bodies.
Let me ask you two quick things. And to clarify the first one for me, are you saying that members of your association who hold valid licenses were targeted as part of Operation Halt?
Yes, at the Praso area, which we send the technical team to go and then give us the facts, and then we write to the minister and see, because they have their licenses, they are operating legally, and they were directed to go on the river bodies to ensure that these Chamfas or the dredgers are taking off the river body. So why do you have to veer off into areas and you destroy properties? And from the past 4 years, I quite remember the interministerial and the ministry issued that excavators or equipment should not be bent, rather they should be seized. Now, if we go through the process and realize that these people have the clear mandate to do, then the next thing is government have to pay, for those equipment that have been destroyed, which is not right. So it's ongoing, the investigation is ongoing, and we'll get back to the ministry on this. Because the issue of always using the military and then abusing their powers is something that we need to look at. All the time, this has been happening. Any time there is this issue of managing illegal mining, most of the people who are affected are those who have licenses. And it needs to stop.
All right. I will come back to you, Mr. Ama. Franklin, you've heard from the experts in the mining space, so Madam Cranting, Darrell, and now Mr. Ama. Do you get a sense that the strategy that we've deployed in the short and medium term is one that will help with this situation we are dealing with?
Well, somebody said repeating what you keep doing and expecting different results may be baseless optimism, by the way. But look, I'm prepared to give the current minister the benefit of the doubt. The issue is that he's dealing with a problem that seems much bigger than himself, but for which the solutions have been proffered again on this particular conversation. All the very experienced panelists you've had here have told you what ought to be done. They repeated it last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago. We did the same thing. So I don't know what is really left. I don't understand why we can't deal with the problem. I'm at pains I keep suggesting that you should involve locals in this fight. And I think that's the overriding point that seems to be coming out here. Decentralize the issue of enforcement. Need people to be part of the process. I don't know why this is difficult. I keep saying that the issues about decentralizing or localizing the fight is important to the extent that when the locals have the confidence that they are benefiting from the resource, then they'll be willing to help you fish out those who are engaged in illegal mining and what have you. But if the justice, the distributional justice is not not necessarily in favor of them, then you will never get the support that you need. You will always be commanding this from the center. I don't know whether I mentioned the last time we spoke, I mentioned the issues around poaching in Southern Africa. And I'm sure, Akoto, you definitely know the story, since you've worked in other parts of Africa. You recall that in the southern parts of Africa, when locals were poaching and were virtually eating up all these wildlife, what did those governments do? They decided that they were going to involve the locals in the management of the wildlife so that they eke out a living as well. I'm sure it was about 70 to 80% successful. Of course, there are still some rebels. But I think these things have been documented, and they're just legion of examples. But how, again, do you go and mine in a forest area if the laws of the country actually are working? I mean, somebody must be shepherding these persons in the first place. I must admit, I have nothing really significant to add than all the wonderful things that the panelists have said. Let's just do what is right, and let's get it. Let's solve the problem.
Okay, let me go back to Madam Cranting, Associate Executive Director of WACAM. And you heard Mr. Ama and his initial complaint about what he says are attacks on parts of their group, but also looking at the way forward and how we can sustain this. What are the key elements that we are looking for? What should we do?
Okay, so thank you again. You see, I find it difficult to reconcile mining in protected forests and any legality. Once you are mining in protected forests, you can't be saying that I am conducting my business in a legal manner because I have a license. No mining license should be issued for mining operations within protected areas. That one is clear. The law is explicit on that. So the moment you have a license to mine, whether you are and I'm not limiting this talk to just the small-scale miners. Large-scale mining companies are also involved in mining in protected forests. And the last time, I think I listed a number of them. Kubi has been mined by AngloGold in the past. If you go to AngloGold, AngloGold of Boise, Kubi. If you go to AngloGold Iduaprem, part of New Forest Reserve was mined. If you go to Ejenuabipo Forest Reserve, Newmont is mining as we speak. And I can recount all over the country. So any mining operations within protected forests cannot be said to be legal. And that one, I cannot be convinced that because I am licensed to mine, I have the right and I have the audacity to move into protected forests and mine, and that Ghanaians, you should keep quiet and watch. So that is where I'm coming from. The second point I said was that if you go to some of these communities, I never indicated that small-scale miners are armed, all of them are armed, but it is a fact that there's a whole presence of armed personnel, not militarization, in such areas, to the extent that farmers go to their farm in the morning and their properties are destroyed. And who are you to complain because you are afraid for your life? I have experienced some of these things personally. And I mean, the place was so tight with the people armed and then conducting their activities and dumping their waste in Ankobra River. I couldn't have the courage to even invite journalists to go and conduct investigations because I was afraid for their lives. So what we are saying is what has happened. And if you go to the large-scale industries, AngloGold used to operate a private detention facility, which is on record. We investigated and we have dealt with some of the cases that they had, the infractions that went on. We were with journalists from Sweden, and somebody from AngloGold Iduaprem pulled a gun on us. So some of these things are there. If you go to Pristia, there was a whole consignment of military in the community trying to control the anger of the people. So militarization has a history in the country. And what I'm saying is that if we continue with this attitude, the war that Ghana may experience is not a war about innocence, but the war about people thinking that they have the right to engage in their atrocities, and the people thinking that they also have a right to protect their lives. And it has happened in other countries where indigenes were not involved in any struggle, in any war, but people were fighting the war in their community, and because of that, a lot of vulnerability happened. So what we are saying is quite serious, and we should not, I don't want us to be protective of what we are doing to the extent that we lose sight of the dangers that are ahead of us. Ghana is for all of us. The resource that is being mined by a few of us, creating all kinds of problems for us, is a property that belongs to all of us. And we have a right to know exactly what is happening, and then we have a right to also protect our lives. And so when measures are being taken, and then we take positions as if we are being defensive of what we are doing, that would not address the problem. In the same way, regulators and all people who have been involved in protecting and regulating mine in the past should sit up again and look at areas that they fell short and then re-strategize, and then we move on. Because if we want to go into history and then recount the many experiences and the problems that we have created for ourselves as a country, we may never go forward. That's why these days I don't want to go back into history and then recount you did this or that person did that and things like that. Now we are confronted with the problem, and everybody is aware of the problems that confront us. Let us develop strategies to move on.
There are those who have said that this is a livelihood issue, particularly at the community level. So you talk about engaging the communities, but these are communities where individuals easily fall to the temptation because agric is not paying off, they are not making as much money as they should, and the mineral resources are right there for them to see. So the temptation is great. How do you tell such a person that, look, keep the environment clean when the person is, protect the environment when the person is hungry? So there are those who have suggested also fixing the livelihood issue with regards to providing alternatives. Now, in the previous strategy, we were told that people were taken to be trained, there were other opportunities. We didn't really see the outcomes of these. Are these still sustainable avenues to pursue?
Well, for me, it's sustainable because if you go to the community and you do a survey of community people, actual indigents involved in this galamsey or whatever you want, illegal operations, they are always in the minority. For instance, a lot of women in the community would want the forest, the standing forest, to be present because that is where they have their daily incomes. They gather fuel wood, they gather spices, they gather the mushrooms, they gather the snails, they gather leaves, and these are things that they have depended on over years to train children, some of them being me. So that has been sustainable. Again, let us look at granting a concession to somebody or to a small-scale miner or somebody not having the license to mine but just destroying the whole ecosystem. If I have 5 acres of farmlands, I can cultivate that parcel of land for 1,500 years if I engage in proper land management of the land. And so that is more sustainable. Again, if you go to the displacement of community people from their lands, agricultural lands, not only the small-scale miners, but also the large-scale miners. For instance, in Tarkwa Goldfields, within 5 years, displaced about 30,000 landlords. And if you think of one landlord having a wife and an average of 4 children, that tells you the number of people who were displaced in the Wassa West, the then Wassa West district alone. And it goes on and on. So the question of livelihood, and because I want to be a miner should not warrant you to be involved in illegal activities. That is the point we are stressing. Yes, nobody has said that stop small-scale miners or stop large-scale miners. But then if you have the license to mine, you should abide by the rules of the game. And the rules of the game indicate that you do not pollute and then leave the pollution in the atmosphere. You do not externalize costs to the third party. The other thing is that you do not destroy our environment. You do not create a situation where cemeteries are mined. The last time I told you, I've lost my daughter forever because where my husband and we buried our daughter has been mined. So I've lost that child forever. And these are, we have a number of cases in the communities that we can talk about. Shrines were moved to pave the way for mining, not small-scale mining, but also large-scale mining. And so if we are not careful, a time will come when we want to trace our history through the archaeologists or whatever. They cannot trace the history because everything that we have, every value that we have has been destroyed in the interest of mining. At the end of the day, how much are we realizing from this resource that we have touted as the most important and all that? Even to the state, the rents that we receive from mining, it cannot be talked. It's not anything that we can talk about. And so if we do not really do this cost-benefit analysis, look at what we are losing, the intangibles especially, that we are losing, the cost of mining, and then we assume that, oh, it is a livelihood choice. Yes, we can choose to have any livelihood, but not when the activities turn out to be criminal in nature, illegal in nature. So just as we can regulate the armed robbers, we should be able to regulate people who are in mining and they are engaged in illegal operations. Don't mine and destroy our water sources. Don't mine and pollute our air. Don't mine and deprive others of their livelihood choices. These are not things that cannot be done. If we are managing all sectors of the economy, then we should be able to manage the mining sector, especially because that one is not sustainable. Mining cannot be sustainable the manner in which it's being conducted now.
Darrell, I guess I'll give you the same question as well. This matter of how do we fuse livelihoods and mining, especially at the community level. And you can also add to this the ability to supervise what is happening from a central level. By that I mean the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the military, and whatnot. How do they see? Because, for instance, as I'm sitting here, I received a message. Somebody says there's a spot in the Savannah region that is called Dollar Power. They are mining brutally as we speak. So how do we check these things?
Okay, so I think the issue where people talk about livelihood, I've always said that it is not the case that community people who are mostly farmers think of gold mining as an option for them. I mean, until somebody comes from somewhere to introduce them to it, they will prefer, like Madam Hada said, prefer to be farmers. They prefer to go to the forest and pick what you call non-timber forests and all of that. If you really go to the communities, go across the western region, go to the Ashanti region, go to the eastern region, go into the communities where these mining activities are happening, what you actually see are people who are doing mining to live large, not because of a livelihood issue. We pulled together several women in several communities and asked them, has mining been of benefit to you or not? And all they could say was that mining has brought them much more woes than before because of mining, their children are not going to school. They are staying out of school to do other illegal activities. Because of mining, there are lots of other illicit social activities within the community, people taking drugs and all of that, and the influx of arms also in the communities. These are not things you can therefore say that the direct and indirect impact of mining is about livelihood. No, it's all about living large. If you see a young man going into mining, the next thing you see is that they go and buy a car, and sometimes they're not even able to license the car. They drive around the town, and all everybody thinks about is getting to mining so they can also buy a car, not because they really need the food. It's not really about that. So, that, as has been said, we need to look at the cost-benefit analysis. if miners are made to face or pay the full cost for recovery of the land they mine on, if miners are asked to pay for the water bodies they pollute, I am definitely sure and certain that it is not going to look as lucrative as it is. And that is how come we are saying that if we really want to address the issue of mining and how it is impacting on our environment, we need to start making miners pay full cost of the impact they exert on us, to do an exact calculation of there and ask these miners to pay, like we ask big companies to do, to pay a reclamation bond before we even give them the permit. So is there a matter of you say that I want to do mining, so you just get up and go and do it? You need to be ready. You need to be prepared to pay for the cost of recovery of the land. And this is something we all need to pay attention to. Now, if you go to the local communities, the decentralized areas, I agree to a certain extent that we need to do decentralization. But it is also important that we ensure that there is checks and balances. Who is giving the permit? Who is making sure that we check and ensure that there's no abuse of the system? If the local police are going to be the people monitoring, how do we ensure that nobody at the decentralized level is abusing their powers or looking the other way for other people to infractions or look up? But I think that we need to make sure there is proper checks and balances. Now, what is happening at the moment is that with the kind of study that we are rolling out, we see still the executive, the ministry still strongly involved. I've heard about the establishment of a task force at the ministerial level. That for me is just a repetition of what was done before. Let's make sure that going forward, the things we put in place should be at the MMDAs. We have the District Committee on Illegal Mining, which is only of the same institution that have supervised the menace that we have experienced over the years. We need to change this DCIM and bring in more institutions, more neutral bodies that can speak to the issue, not leave it to the politicians and political actors to just take hold of some of these institutions. So these issues are very, very critical. And then once we are at it, we need to make sure that we need to start re-educating and reorienting the youth and looking at sustainable livelihood as an option and not living large or fast cash as the way that most people are doing. And this needs to be seen also across leadership, where leaders think that we can make money in 4 years, and this is the same mindset that you also take when they go to do mining. So if you can help them, reorient them even in schools, even when they go for training and all of that, then I'm sure we wouldn't think that mining is the best option. Let's bear in mind that whilst you think mining is bringing us a lot of benefit, there are other land use forms that depend on the same land that people want to mine. So what happens to all these other people? I think Madam Hannah gave some excellent, I'll say, analogies of how we should look at mining and also some of the impact on communities. And I believe that if we focus on ensuring sustainability, the polluter pay principle, making sure that the miner pays full cost recovery for everything that is done, we decentralize and ensure there is real checks and balances, we can at the end of the day deal with it, and it will even reflect on the way people perceive the land. So this is what I would say on that.
Well, let me ask you this before I just go back to Godwin and Franklin. And this is a link that nobody has drawn yet. So with this current operation that is ongoing, how do you see this affecting the future of your project in the Tiwa Forest? Because that is also a significant mining project that is upcoming. And here we are now saying, don't mine in forest reserves, we are protecting the environment, but the state has battered away its future in the Tiwa as well.
Well, I think you have a case there. So, I mean, there is an awakening. The minister coming out to say that there shouldn't be any prospecting or mining in forest reserve. It's only going to apply to small-scale mining. We are going to make sure that the state as an agency also complies and is also law-abiding. So you cannot ask the people to act differently and you also act differently. And this applies to all state agencies. And that is how come Madam Hannah was talking about big companies and large companies and all of that. So the case of mining, and this has been what we've been saying all along, and the fact is that Atewa is a protected forest reserve of significant benefit to Ghanaians. So it makes no sense for anybody. It doesn't matter whether it is Minerals Commission or the government, the president or the minister, to say that we are going to mine bauxite or we are going to mine or even extract trees in that particular. It is a protected forest reserve. And this is where the government needs to be very, very careful. You are saying nobody should prospect and mine in forest reserve. You cannot go and do differently. And this is very, very important. So for us, it's very good news, and we hope that the government will live by its words as they have indicated. This is something that
all right, thank you.
And we are going to hold them accountable to this as well. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll take closing remarks from Godwin Ama, General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners, and Franklin Cudjoe, President of Imani Africa, and then we will wrap this up. A couple of messages have also come through that I will share after this break.
Lawful wedded wife to having to hold from this day forward.
I do.
I knew it. Drama saying a bit smashe. I'm a winyaji. For HD Plus, who no feel. My HD Plus, nyanyon papa palma with HD TV. But star 879 hash for subscribe it. Not chow need to feel say see ya.
Sunday, 9 May is Mother's Day. Win an all-expense-paid weekend stay for Mama at Royal Senchi, a Mother's Day hamper and spa treatment for your beloved mother for all her sacrifices to you and your family with a Thank You Mama promotion. This is how to enter. Write a letter to City FM or City TV in not more than 100 words telling us why your mama deserves to be celebrated. Your letter must begin with Thank You Mama for. Add a photograph of you and your mama and send your entry via email to promo@cityfmonline.com or visit www.citynewsroom.com to complete a form for participation. Deadline for the submission of entries is on Monday, 3rd May 2021 at 11:59 p.m. Don't miss the chance to show your appreciation and love to Mama on Sunday, 9th May 2021. For more information, call 0205 973 973 or visit www.citynewsroom.com. Remember, all entries must be sent via email and website only. The Thank You Mama promotion is powered by 97.3 City FM and City TV. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back, and let me just take a couple of messages. So this one says, good morning, City. Please, is there no other way that this issue of Galamsey can be dealt with without destroying excavators by burning them? Can they rather be seized and given to local assemblies for drainage and other uses rather than spoiling them? I believe these equipments were bought with the resources of Ghanaians. Let's not waste these resources. Okay, Albert from Sakumono says in one and says he's still talking about the special prosecutor. Says the credentials of the proposed special prosecutor is good, but considering his age and closeness with the NPP, I'm wondering how he can deal with corruption and other cases involving NPP stalwarts. A neutral person with similar superior experience can easily be found in Ghana. And a few more says this is James Amable from Dansoman. He says, we saw the same military protecting the these illegal miners in a Joy News video not long ago. What's happened after that? This should tell you that there are high hands in this Galamsey thing. We just can't trust the president and everyone pretending to be fighting Galamsey. Xylix Dwayne in London says, Nikweku Godfred, this Chinese fight is a lost battle. Soldiers and guns won't solve the problem. They're just going to enrich themselves again. Our leaders are the problem. This one says, I am Kobe. I live in Central Region, precisely Buduata Junction. There's a company, he mentions the name of a company here, who says, he says they've been blasting granite several times every week. As a result, every building around the place has been damaged. The community has complained several times and nothing has been done. We need your help, City TV. Okay, Kobe, I will pass this on. We will check on this later. Al-Haji Hamza from Pig Farm says, we need to be truthful to ourselves as Ghanaians in this country and speak the truth for once. President Ado promised to put his presidency on the line in the fight against Galamsey in this country. Ghanaians were all happy and we gave our support. We are where we are because there was a lack of political will to fight Galamsey because members of his own party were deeply involved. Simons and Accra says, Galamsey, instead of lip service, why doesn't Parliament pass emergency laws? Well, okay. Simon, okay. Thank you very much for your message. Galamsey is killing with the non-politicians, so please let's all fight it and leave politics aside for good. Yes, we can. Owa Hene Echampong from Achim Eyirebi is that is the message that he has sent through. So let me go back to Godwin. I'm a General Secretary of the Ghana Association of Small Scale Miners. And Godwin, an accusation that has been leveled against you is that your group professes to support, your association professes to support the fight against Galamsey. You have your own group that goes around to monitor, to supervise, also to stop people from mining. But they say that no big fish has been arrested. And your group knows all the big fishes. So why are you not providing names? Not the small people who are being caught on the mining concessions, the people who fund them. They are the major players in the Galamsey game. And your association knows these persons. Why are you not helping the police and national security to arrest these persons? Godwin, can you hear me? Hello, Godwin. Okay, we'll try and I'll try and get Godwin back to answer this question for me, but that means I'll go back to Mr. Kujo Franklin. So you've heard Madam Cranty, you've heard Darrell. We'll get back to answer that particular question. Franklin. Yeah, Mr. Ahmad, did you hear my question? Godwin? Godwin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm having problems, some challenges with the network here. But I heard of you saying, hello.
Yes,
hello,
I can. Yes, I can hear you. Go on. Go on, Godwin. I can hear you.
Hello? Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, go on.
Yeah, first of all, the small-scale miners do not work in forest reserves. No permit have been issued to any small-scale miner to work in any forest reserve. So the excavators that have been, yeah, I said first of all, reserve. No licenses are issued in forest reserves or river bodies. It's clearly stated recently are designated areas for small-scale mining. To set the records clear, it's within the and we are conducting investigations, and we'll get back to the minister, will write to the ministry and see how this issue can be resolved. Number two, the association have been collaborating with government over and over. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources doing America. If we don't get clean water to work, and we don't get clean water, it affects our operations. So the support is neither here or there. I can state it categorically that anyone who makes that statement does not have the facts right. Because the association within our resources, over 1 to 2 million Ghana cedis, we contributed on our task force, and we were able to clear over 8,000 champions for the river bodies. We've also written to the ministries and the Minerals Commission severally, citing the key in relocating the illegal small-scale miners on AGA concession in 2016, where the AGA sent government to the international arbitration on the small-scale miners. And within a record time, the solution that we use, the movement committee, we involve the illegal miners and then the small-scale miners themselves. And these people, in record time of 1.5 months, 4,600 people were relocated from this concession. And that is what we are suggesting, that if we want to win this fight, it should be done with the Minerals Commission without any influence from any powers from anywhere. And resource them to ensure that we all work together and collaborate to sustain this.
Well, we seem to be having problems with Godwin's line. So we'll just wrap this up. I'll just wrap this up quickly with Madam Kranting and then Darrell, and then we will call it a day. So, Madam Kranting, your final words on this?
Well, I would say that as Ghanaians, we should be very, very careful now. We know that, yes, we've made a lot of mistakes in the past. And it's a responsibility of every citizen to ensure that we support whatever efforts are in place to correct the wrongdoings of the past. We should also know that we cannot have any other world. This world, we cannot have any part of it as Ghana if we destroy this world. As we speak now, if we are not careful, very soon, apart from the gold mining, the bauxite mining that has occupied us, we are going to have oil production onshore. And this happens to coincide with areas that provide us with our food stuffs. So we should be very, very vigilant and know that mining can go hand in hand with other sectors of the economy, only if we do not encourage the pollution and deprivation that we are encountering now. So these will be my final words.
Darrell? Darrell?
It is now that yes, I would want to speak about the rule of law. And one of the key things, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Darrell. Go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
to
can.
Say that I would want to say that my final words would be that I want the government to also apply the rule of law, because currently I understand there has also been a statement by the Minister of Defense that every excavator that is confiscated will be burnt. And for me, that is not living by the rule of law, because in Act 995, which was an amendment of Act 703, we have seen the provision that every equipment that is confiscated should be used for the benefit of the state or to be decided by the court. So I think it is not the right move for government to say that every equipment or excavator will be burnt at the place where it was confiscated. So it is important that if we really want to show leadership and ensure compliance and enforcement in the system, the state agencies should also ensure they abide by the rule of law. And this is very, very important. You are asking legal concession holders to stay away from protected areas, and you cannot do contrary if you also give concessions to other companies to go and mine in other protected areas like they are planning to do also in Atiwa. So abiding by the rule of law should not only be for the citizens, but should also be for the lawmakers and the leaders of the land as well. And this is very crucial if you are going to ensure that people respect the laws of the land when it comes to mining or any venture that is going to have negative impact on our lives or on our environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daryl Bosu. And on that note, we will end this episode of The Big Issue. I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Godfred Akoto Boafo. It's May Day.
Hello.
So for all the workers out there, have a fantastic working day. See you next week.